through starting to recognize this cyclical cycle within myself, I started to understand more kind of the idea behind these other cycles I was researching, but more so why it wasn't clicking for me. Wherever you are right now, however you're feeling right now, wherever you're at right now, it's not by accident. And you are not wrong. We focus so much on trying to be the quote unquote better version of ourselves. But what if we were just the version of ourselves that we are right the fuck now without having to tear ourselves down for it? And instead embraced the strengths within that season that you're in, within the way that you're feeling. What if you tapped into that as your fucking superpower? Welcome to the Leanne Aligned Podcast. Here we talk about all things mystical, mysterious, and a little taboo. If you're interested in diving deep, going off the beaten path, and learning tools to help you fully embrace the soul-aligned life that you came here to live, then this podcast is for you. Let's open our hearts, expand our minds, and tap into the magic that lives within all of us. I'll see you there. Hello, my beautiful creative souls, and welcome back for podcast number 3. Thank you so much for joining me again today. I'm going to be honest right off the bat because we get fucking real here. So here we go. I do not want to film a podcast today, and I debated on just skipping it, but especially being the third one out of the gate, I definitely don't want to do that to you. And the reason that I wanted to skip it today wasn't because I'm not excited to talk to you, wasn't because I don't have a bunch of ideas and things that I'm excited to share with you, but because I'm in this sort of winter-ish period for myself right now, more so like easing out of it into the spring. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about what that means and kind of the cyclical nature that my evolutions take on. But when I'm in this kind of like winter vibes, I am very much in the void, and it's usually a time where I just want to like rest and not have to interact with people and not really focus on work. I'm more in a space of really wanting to mull over ideas and kind of pre-plan, more in like that dream up concepts place. And it's very much a phase where I'm like in my head and not a lot that makes sense is coming out of my mouth. So hopefully what I'm saying in this episode will make sense to you, but I wanted to make sure that I showed up for you guys, especially in this kind of winter phase for myself, to not only, like I said, make sure you had an episode this week, but to display and really walk the walk of like, it's okay to not want to be on all the time. It's okay to go through these natural ebbs and flows. And it's actually a part of our nature naturally. And some of us go through them on a rapid basis, and some of our cycles last a little bit longer, but it's all part of being human, and it's actually a necessary part of manifestation and transformation of any kind, because there are certain stages, right, to our manifestation. I talked a little bit in a second ago about how in my winter phase, I'm very much like in my headspace, dreaming and planning and like doing all the mental things. And that is a necessary part of the process before you're like ready to go, right? But when you're in the energy of going and building momentum and taking action and doing the things, you don't want to plan. You just want to get on with it. And then there comes a point where you are in a good rhythm and you're just kind of going with the flow. Like you've already got your plan in motion. You're just doing the thing and you're friggin' killing it and you're having a great time. and you're enjoying yourself, right? And then there comes to a point where either a natural kind of ending will occur, or there's some type of slowing down that happens internally for us that sends us into a period of reflection and reevaluation, which again brings us then to the, well, this is coming to a close. Where am I going next? And this is that seasonal cycle that I'm referring to. This winter season of like really being in the unknown and kind of in your feels and all up in your head, moving into the spring where you're really like putting the vision together and putting it in motion. The summer season where your like creativity is amped up, you're full of passion, you're slaying and taking fucking names, like you're just doing the dang thing and you're having a great time. And then the fall season where we kind of enter into this more reflective period before we enter into that unknown part again, right? And sometimes this cycle presents itself as big things in our life, like big changes happening. Sometimes it's a cycle that we go through in the month, right? If you're used to planning, you plan at the beginning of the month and then you do your things throughout the month and then you reflect at the end of the month and then you plan again. Projects go through this phase. The moon goes through this phase. Like there's so many different things that we can associate with these 4 different kind of phases, but I think the seasons are a great way to describe this. And that's one of the reasons why I'm focusing on the Pleasure Playbook in summer. And I actually put my Manifesting a Magical Life membership on hold, was because I really wanted to focus on what I believe the summer season represents as a whole, not just summer in terms of the outside season. And of course, for my Southern Hemisphere babes, it's winter, so that doesn't really apply to you. But the internal summer, this summer phase of the transitional period of the transitional cycle, is all about having fun. And I feel like this cycle is the point, right? It's that point that we all want to reach where we're just living life for the fun of it, and not a lot feels like work. So if you want to know more about Pleasure Playbook, you can still sign up. That's still open. I'll leave the link in the show notes for you, or you can visit my website at any time to check that out. But even though seasons often last like 3 months in the legitimate rotation of the seasons, right? Or in the quarters. As I said, our seasons can end up being micro or macro or happen over and over again. And this is something that I really developed the concept of by learning more about myself. And I actually call this the Cyclical Self Transformation formula, which I do teach in the Manifesting a Magical Life membership. And the reason I teach this and have put this together for myself is because over the years, I have really dove into moon cycles and menstrual cycles and the phases and seasons and all different types of natural cycles, and tried to understand the description of each one and somehow link myself up with it. And no matter how much I tried, it just didn't click. And I often find that my internal season doesn't really match whatever's going on in the external season, right? Or the moon phase, etc. Sometimes it does, and when it does, that's fantastic. But it doesn't always, because there are lots of other factors that contribute to this, right? The things that are going on in my life contribute to it. The place that I'm at work contributes to it. Whatever's happening in my family life contributes to it. Personal development contributes to it, right? There's so much that happens to us that contributes to our inner feeling, right? I keep talking about these abstract seasons and the different types of things that we focus on during the seasons, but really what it is it's a feeling. It's a period of feeling and percolating. Of course, I say that because I'm in the fields and I'm percolating because I'm in the winter part of it. But each season has its own feeling and its own vibe and its own energy within your body that kind of comes up. And through starting to recognize this cyclical cycle within myself, I started to understand more kind of the idea behind these other cycles I was researching, but more so why it wasn't clicking for me. Because my cycles are unpredictable. I can spend a long time in a winter season, or a long time in a spring season, or a long time in a summer season, or I can cycle through them rapid pace, and sometimes even like enter all 4 of those phases within the week. It really all depends. And being able to recognize these 4 cycles within myself has not only helped me leverage where I am at the moment, because, side note, wherever you are right now, however you're feeling right now, wherever you're at right now, it's not by accident. And you are not wrong. Nothing about you right now, the way that you feel, how you naturally are, nothing about that is incorrect and wrong. There may be things that we want to shift about it, and that is perfectly okay. And that isn't wrong either. But however we are feeling, if we're low energy, if we're high energy, if we're motivated, if we're unmotivated, we're not bad or good or lazy or productive, right? We focus so much on trying to be the quote unquote better version of ourselves. But what if we were just the version of ourselves that we are right the fuck now, without being apologetic about it, without having to tear ourselves down for it, and instead embraced the strengths within that season that you're in, within the way that you're feeling, within the mode or the lens through which you're viewing things at the time? What if you tapped into that as your fucking superpower, instead of berating yourself and beating yourself down for not being in a different place? I have to go get my dog. It just started raining. Hold that thought. All right, Chowder's back inside, all nice and dry. We can continue. He never would have forgiven me if I left him out in the rain. So glad that I noticed that and remembered. Anyway, getting back on track here. It's through this cycle of understanding that I began to lean into how I was feeling at any given moment, to hack almost my time and to utilize, like I just said in the pep talk, right? Utilize however I'm feeling at each moment as my superpower. And obviously this isn't always something that we can 100% shift into, right? Things in our lives still have to happen, whether we're in our winter season or summer season, or like nobody at work gives a fuck what season you're in. Like, you still got to show up and do your job, right? But when you're in your own time, or at least internally, right, we can be easier on ourselves and see how we can begin to work with that to make our lives easier, right? Regardless of what you're doing outside within your day, you always have power over your internal landscape. It may not always feel like that, right? Because we're riding the waves of however we're feeling at that time. But you get to choose how you think about it, how you speak to yourself about it, how you operate. Every moment of our lives, we are faced with a choice, whether that be a choice of what to think, how to act, how to respond. And understanding this cycle and understanding ourselves better allows us to better respond to these different things within our life. So let's take a moment to dive a little deeper into these different phases so that you can have a better understanding of which phase you might be in and how you can best utilize the strengths of that phase or part of the cycle. So first, we're going to go back and talk about winter again, because it's the season I'm in right now, but also because I think, in my opinion, it's the start of the cycle. A lot of people see the start of a cycle as the spring or as the new moon, right? But I see the dark moon or winter as the start of the season. And each season I feel is kind of twofold. So when you first enter into the winter season, it's usually a time when you're very much in your emotions, right? You may be entering into a period of unknown. There may be a problem that you need to solve that you aren't quite sure what the path forward is yet, but you can feel that like something's coming. You may feel lost. You may feel insecure. You may feel a certain level of hopelessness in some way. And this is like being in the dark, right? It's the period before things start to be formed. It is the darkness of the womb of the universe, right? Where we haven't even thought about being birthed into something new yet, but the universe knows we will. And it's this weird like waiting period. It's like being in a waiting room in a building where you don't even know like what you're there for or why you're there. You don't know what your surroundings are like. You don't know who's around you. You just know you're there and you're like, hello, can someone please turn on the fucking light? And it's during this first part of the winter period where we need to be really gentle with ourselves. Take time to journal. Take time to engage in some self-soothing practices if those are available to you, right? If you're someone who enjoys, water, take some showers, cuddle up on the couch with a blanket and a good book and a cup of tea, right? Anything that's really gentle and self-nourishing is going to be really useful for you at this time. And just understanding, okay, this is where I'm at right now, and journaling about what is underlying this, what kind of triggered this, not from a judgmental place, but just from a curious place, right? What was the event or feeling or thought or shit that was going on in my life that really kind of spilled me into this winter phase? Because it doesn't even feel like a big transition most of the time. All of these are very subtle, and then one day you just kind of notice and you're like, oh, this is where I'm at, right? Winter kind of feels like that sneaky one you slip into and you're like, how did I get here and why am I here? Okay. So the second part of the winter phase is when we start to feel a little more oriented. And we begin to see, okay, I may not know the way forward, but I'm going to start thinking about what that vision of the way forward looks like. Even if I don't know where the path is, even if I have no idea where I'm going, somebody started to like turn on the light, right? It's like the lights are coming up on dimmers and you can see a little bit of your surroundings and you begin to formulate a plan of where you're going to move in the room, where you're going to look, where you're going to start to investigate and see what's around and see what it is that you would like to do next. I don't know if I said this, but the first part of winter I associate with the element of water because you are so in your emotions. The second part of winter I associate with the element of air. And this is because you begin to think and plan and you're really using your water, your intuition, your feelings mixed with your thoughts, right? To create a vision. And visioning is kind of the secondary title to the winter season, right? We have the void and then we have the vision. And there can still be remnants of the void while we create the vision. So you're not like crystal clear on anything, but it's coming together, right? So this is a time where you are best served by making some sort of vision. Maybe you want to do vision boards. Maybe you just want to do brainstorming. Maybe you want to do some big visioning, right? This isn't so much like micro visioning. We're not like making set plans and setting goals and all that. We're really exploring what life could be like or what we may want to do. So have fun with this, right? Approach this from a playful standpoint. This is also a time that I find I'm the most like creative in my journal and things because I'm really in the feels and beginning to translate that into something more concrete, more visual, more big picture. Okay. So that is the winter season. Next, we have the spring phase, or the spring season. And this is the season that I associate with creating and the waxing moon. So this is when you begin to actually create a plan. I associate the first part of this phase, the create phase, with the element of air. So we're still in the air element. And this is where you begin to take your vision that you crafted in the winter season and really begin to flush out what that looks like. What projects are you going to do? What kind of time do you have to execute this? Where are you going to begin to start moving those chess pieces? If we go back to, the waiting room analogy, right? Now the lights are fully on and we're looking around the room and we're making a solid plan of like, okay, I'm going to go check out this thing over here, or ask this person over there, right? You're really formulating the plan. Things seem a lot more clear, and even if you can't see the whole picture, right, you're ready to move forward. So then you kind of move into the second phase of the create phase, which I associate with fire. And that is because this is the action that you begin to take, right? You take your plan that you formulated and you start to put it into action. You gain some momentum, right? If you're in the waiting room, you start walking around, talking to the people you were going to talk to, asking questions, poking around, snooping around, seeing what's behind doors. That's the create phase. The spring phase. Then we move into the summer phase, the play phase. And this, again, in two parts. The first part of this is associated with the element of fire, and this is also associated with the full moon. So this is when we begin to see some of the fruits of our labor, right? We're not done anything per se at this point, but we're in it. We've been taking action, we've been making progress, we can see the vision coming to life, and we're on track. Like, we're well on our way, we're doing the damn thing, and we can kind of put our momentum on autopilot and just really have fun with it and begin to see the pleasure in this creation, right? Oftentimes we associate the full moon with harvest. So the second part of this phase is associated with earth, and this is more of that harvest energy. You're really seeing what's happening and what you are creating. And you may have even come to a point now where you have accomplished what you were creating, and you're just enjoying it. Like, enjoy the fruits of your labor. If you're in the waiting room, this is the time where they say, well, you're not at a doctor's office, don't worry, you're actually at the ice cream shop, and we're about to take you out back, and you can pick any flavor of ice cream you want, all the fucking toppings, and you're gonna sit outside and pet dogs in the sunshine, or whatever your flavor of a good time would be, right? But this is the summer phase. It's all about having fun, enjoying life, enjoying the fruits of your labor. And during this phase, you do just that, right? Spend time doing things that you enjoy and enjoying how far you've already come. A lot of the times we don't celebrate anything unless it's like done, dusted, over with. But then the tricky part about that is that once it's quote unquote done, we're already on to the next thing. And there is no celebration because we already see the next thing in front of us. So before we get to the fall season, the celebration must happen in the summer before you've even quote unquote finished your manifestation or whatever it is that you're working on. Because this is the time where all that excitement is there, all that energy is there, and we're getting more grounded and solidified and stable in what we're doing. And this is the time to really enjoy that before we begin to reflect and start over again. So, pleasure, play, celebrate. That's the summer season. And then we move into the final phase that we're going to talk about in our 4-phase cycle here for transformation, or cyclical transformation. And that is the fall season. The fall season is the season of reflection, and this is associated with the waning moon. And our first element, again, is earth. And this one's pretty self-explanatory, although I don't know if I can put it into words. But you know, when fall starts and the air becomes just a little bit crisper and it's a little cooler, and the mornings and evenings are cold, but the days still feel like summer, and you just feel like things are kind of returning back to a normal cadence. They're somehow busier and slower all at the same time. And you're getting excited, or at least I am, because, you know, the spooky season, quote unquote, is coming. Although, side note, it's spooky season year round at my house. I don't give a fuck what any of you say. Halloween all day, every day. Okay, thank you. Anyway. It's this whole like feeling, and I don't know how else to put it into words, but it's like that bittersweet endings where you're almost excited for the next phase. You're like, woo, summer was good. Holy shit, roller coaster ride. So many ups and downs, mostly ups. Like, this was fantastic. And I'm kind of ready to like slow down a little bit and like still enjoy life, right? But like just a little bit of a slower pace and with a different kind of flavor. So getting really grounded and really, again, sitting in that harvest energy of like, wow, I fucking did this. Like, I created all of this. Like, this is amazing. How did I do it? And then the second phase of fall is associated with the element of water. And that's when we begin to kind of get to the end of fall, when we're like slipping into winter, right? And we're beginning to either think about the next natural cycle, or something happens that feels like either a natural end or an abrupt end that's got us kind of in the feels and really thinking about our current situation, really taking stock of where we are and asking ourselves, like, do I want to be here? Like, is this where I want to still be? Do I even want to go here again? Like, it's all about pausing and reflecting from an objective point, just to be like, check in with yourself, like, hey, how are we doing? We came off this crazy, ride, and now we're getting a chance to like sit down and take stock of the land, and maybe I want more of the same, or maybe I want something different. And this is that time when we reflect and we figure that out. And then we move into the winter phase, right? Where we enter that void of like, either I don't know, or sometimes you may skip the void and you go just to the visioning part if there isn't kind of that lost period that needs to happen. And we start the cycle over again, and it all blends together beautifully. And there are so many complexities within each of these phases, but this is like a general kind of summary. And the way that I see most things rotating, right? Whether you're doing a project, whether you're working on manifesting something, whether you're going through a relationship, whether you're making a purchase, right? There are so many things in our lives where we go through these 4 phases of like, I don't know, here's the vision, holy shit, I'm excited about it. I'm going to make a plan. I'm going to take action. Holy fuck, I'm taking action. This is awesome. Shit's happening. It's all coming together faster than I could have imagined. I'm enjoying it. I'm savoring it. I'm really starting to sink in of the enormity of what has happened in a sense of gratitude. I'm beginning to think about all that's happened, think about how far I've come, and think about where I want to go next. And do I want to stay here or do I want to move on? And then starting over. That's one of the beautiful things, is we always get to decide if and when we want to start over. So I hope that you guys found this helpful. I was really excited to share this with you. I know at the start of this episode, I was like, I don't want to fucking record today, and I want to be in my little bubble and do my visioning and be left the hell alone. But I'm actually really excited that I got to share this with you today. And I ended up talking about something that was on my list of ideas that I wanted to bring to you. This has just been such an invaluable part of my life, part of understanding myself, and part of bringing more harmony and balance into my life, and really not only enjoying my life more and being more gentle in my inner landscape, but also just really on a more practical note, like hacking my manifestation process and really kind of rapid cycling through projects and other things in my life, and being okay with the way that I naturally operate. Sometimes we don't always finish the cycle. Sometimes we get really excited about something and then we get a little, further into it and we jump right from spring to fall. Like, we're just fucking over it. Like, done, dusted. I don't want anything else to do with that. Goodbye. Or, things can come to an unfortunate end sometimes, or things happen where we're propelled into a situation where we have to make a choice to start again before we're ready, right? We may be in the summer season and we think everything's, hunky-dory, and then some shit happens and we're like, fuck, now I gotta figure out where I'm going from here. And we get thrust into that winter void, So as I said, this is very near and dear to my heart. And I hope that me walking you through this kind of cyclical transformation cycle here, that it helped you understand yourself a little bit more and gave you some ideas on how you can embrace wherever you are at the moment. I would love to hear either in the comments if you're listening on YouTube, or send me a DM, or on Instagram, or an email, or tag me in a stories on your Instagram, like however you want to share this information. But I would love to hear kind of what season you're in, what patterns you've noticed within yourself, how each season feels for you. Like, I'm really open to having a juicy, intimate conversation about this, because it's so important to understand ourselves and make life and the way that we work the systems within our life to work for us, not the other way around. I want you to be able to craft a life that you love with ease and grace and deep understanding of who you are and what magic that contains. You have your own flavor of working, your own flavor of magic, your own natural cycles, your own shit that you bring to the table. And so many times in our life, we're forced to go into somebody else's system. And then when it doesn't work for us, we think there's something wrong with us. And there's nothing wrong with you, right? My pep talk earlier, you're exactly where you need to be. And it's beautiful to live a life that honors that. And living a life that honors that is also the path to creating the best life you could possibly imagine, right? To manifesting a life beyond your wildest dreams. Because when you work in harmony with yourself, everything else falls into place. All right. I'm going to get off my soapbox and leave you here. I know I dropped a lot of little nuggets. I'm going to try to link below as many things as I talked about. Again, I would love to hear your thoughts. And if you're listening to this on Spotify, please go ahead and leave me a 5-star review. It really helps the podcast, especially if you're enjoying it, because this is how people get to see it and get to also have access to this life-changing information. So if you would do that, I would be eternally grateful. All that being said, thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll see you guys again soon. Take care, guys. Bye.